Velkommen til Digitaliseringspodden. Programlederne er Jens Christian Bang og Dag Rustad. Digitaliseringspodden er et samarbeid mellom Computer World og Already On.
Alexander Bornyakov, you are the Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation. Welcome to the Digitalisation Pod.
Hi everyone.
It's an honor for us to have a representative from the Ukrainian government. Actually,
Thank you.
It's the first time. Hopefully not the last, but it's a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to meet you because we're having a lot of business in Ukraine. So I used to be in Ukraine 5 times per year or something. So it's so nice to meet someone politician in the Ukrainian country.
Just to start, we always like to kind of get to know our guests a little bit on a personal level. Who is Alexander?
Wow, that's a nice question. So
Do you know yourself?
yeah, I totally know. So I would say that I came from business board. So before starting my own company in my first own company in 2007. I built a career in different IT companies. I was serving as a software engineer, and I was a project manager in IT companies. And at some point, I was appointed as a CEO of Italian outsourcing company in Odessa, Ukraine. And after that, I realized that I want to do something that I can run myself and build something really significant. So I started my software outsourcing company in 2007. After a few years, I sold it to some bigger companies. So there was an M&A, so it was acquisition, and we.
In Ukraine?
Yes, in Ukraine. So there was a company that my partners built. My current partners, they were not partners back in the days, but they built this company out of from Chicago, and it had like 150 developers. So and I had like 50 developers. So we joined forces. We finished this M&A, and after that I started another venture in digital marketing. So it was also very related to IT, but it was also marketing. So we were doing contextual advertising, banners, video, online video advertising, and that was my focus for many years. So I consider myself more of a IT businessman, I would say, IT entrepreneur.
You
we were
moved to
investing.
USA?
What?
You moved to USA?
Yeah, at some point, since most of our clients, it's a digital marketing industry, it's most developed in the States. It's like $200 billion market. It's huge. Like Google, Amazon, Facebook. Now all they compete on the same market. But back in the days, it was not like that. It was Yahoo also. There was a big player, and now they almost gone and stuff. So anyway, at some point we decided that it's very important to open an office in New York, because New York is kind of like media capital of the media business in the States, and it was more than like 4 years ago. But 2 years ago, I actually realized that I want to do some education, extensive education, get additional master's degree. So I actually applied to Columbia University of New York, and they turned out they want me too. And after 2 years, I got graduated on Master of Public Administration. So I'm kind of and when I was finishing, very accidentally, there was not expected that Mr. Zelensky, our current president, is going to win the election. So he won the election, and a lot of changes started. So I got a proposal from Mikhail Fedorov, our Minister of Digital Transformation and the Vice Prime Minister, to take this position and specifically be in charge of development and growth of IT industry in Ukraine. So if you do IT business, I'm the right person from the government to, in case you have any issues. So, but coming back to my experience, so I have more than a decade of experience being an IT entrepreneur, and just 3 months of being in the position of a government official.
Okay.
How is it to be working with politics?
I wouldn't say, it's a tricky question for me, because I wouldn't say it's about politics for me. It's more about execution, because I work for government, and this government is really focused on KPIs. So I have certain KPIs, and I have to follow them. I don't have to follow like really a public opinion. Of course, public opinion is important, but my KPIs are more important. So my KPIs are very simple. It's how much money we grow in terms of IT services in Ukrainian GDP. Another KPI is how many experts how many jobs we created. Like right now we have 200,000 IT professionals, developers, project managers, delivery managers, and many other people that work, system administrators and DevOps and other positions working in Ukraine. And our goal in 5 years is to double it. So, and I'm in charge of very, as you can see, very simple things. And it's also about like how many deals in venture capital market were made from year to year and how they're increasing. So this is those are my KPIs, and they are not related to.
But how are you going to double the amount of exporting heads?
Look, there are a number of actions you can do to make it grow. First of all, you make favorable tax regimes, tax incentives, because you can actually provide this for private companies, and they feel that it's a good environment to grow their business here, and then they hire people, and this way they give job to people, so number of experts increasing. But I think the major part, of course, is education.
But before we go to education, these private entrepreneurs, that they have a much lower tax than ordinary people, but I heard that they're going to remove this kind of tax regime, so it's over to more company tax, which is higher.
Well, it's a great question, because I'm also in charge of this reform. So first of all, we're not going to touch what is working right now. So no one's going to, stop or cancel or, or make people stop using this current tax regime, which is really low, but it allow industry to grow, like 30% year to year. That's what we want to keep this steady.
I heard that was a Ukrainian company that was on the American Stock Exchange, Nasdaq, I guess, which were based on this way with private entrepreneurs, and it was priced very high.
It's EPAM probably.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool that this model is working, and
so it's basically a contractor's model. So we don't think contractor's model is something bad, but what we offer them to, and as a government, what we're looking to companies to build their legal entities in Ukraine. So our reform is to basically leave the taxation level the same.
Around 5%?
So now it's 5%, and we talk with industry to increase it like up to 10%, but not right away, but 1% a year. So like if you have 5% now, next year you're gonna have 6%. After that you have 7%. So each year percent, and not more than 10%.
Yeah, because the problem is that if you're rising it too much, then the workers or programmers want more salary, and if they want more salary, you have to put up the hour rates.
We totally understand that. We understand.
And then people will go to India or China or something.
So, but still, we consider like very smooth way to give people time to adjust. Like 1% a year, in 5 years.
Right.
You're going to pay 10, but in 5 years, not
over time, right?
Yeah, over time.
Yeah. So, but just to get back to the government side. I mean, you got this position 3 months ago.
Correct.
And the whole ministry of digitalization in Ukraine is also new.
2 months older.
Yeah. I mean, how do you kind of get a grip and hands on the task? You know? I mean, it's a huge country, huge domain that you are targeted.
Well, for the first time, I think in history, this time, professionals was hired. So, government is, I think, it's full of professional. And if you spend 10 years in a business, you kind of understand the pains and the problems and the issues that goes with you along the way. And moving to a position with this knowledge, you can easily adjust in terms of like, this is what I wanted to do 3 or 5 years ago, but I haven't had a chance to do that. And now, since I'm here, I know what to do. There was not, so of course I needed some time to kind of assess the set, what's the situation from this angle, but the direction where we're going was clear from the moment I went there. And by the way, I got a proposal, but it was not just a proposal like, all right, I know you, and then I heard about you, and so do you want to go to this position, yes or no? No, it was not like that. It was like a real interview with their deliverables that had to do, and one of them was with vision on how I will transform it. So before they accepted me, they asked me to prepare a comprehensive vision with the points like how I'm going to work, what's going to be my focuses, what my roadmap will be.
Yeah.
So I started to think what to do before I joined this ministry.
Right.
So now it's relatively easy to.
And you told me just before the interview that when you actually got the position, you had to move really fast. You went from Odessa to Kiev, and do you have every belongings with you, or
I had to buy all the new stuff, move to a new apartment, and with all the new things. I didn't have time to get back to Odessa.
During the summer, maybe. Right?
Yeah. But it was already September, so I started end of September.
Right.
November, December.
But let's keep on with education, because that's one of the strategic areas that you have to focus on. I mean, if you want to grow with 100% in 5 years, education must be very important for you. And as my angle on the Ukrainian education system, that you have pretty much universities and colleges, and you have a lot of good educated people in Ukraine, right?
Yeah, we have a good legacy left from USSR. It was a good engineering school, and we still have a lot of people that were in the school, and they continue to teach young talents. So our profession, IT positions are filled with really brilliant people because of that, because of our good engineering school. And some school was good in math, some in physics, some of them in real engineering of stuff, but in many others.
I see this with our people in Sumi. Most of them have master degrees in mathematics, and that's impressing. You don't find the same in Norway. That level of education.
In order to, that's absolutely right. But now what we see is that sometimes we don't need so many brilliant people for a simple task, and when someone comes to build, big business or open for working with a big team of Ukrainian, or he needs. What I'm trying to say is, when someone needs a huge team of developers, distribution of this team is not like 100% of senior developers. Sometimes they require 30% of senior developers, or even less, like 20. Then they need 60% of middle level developers and some part of junior developers. So we don't think we can increase a lot in a relatively short period of time number of senior developers, because it's about learning a lot of stuff besides software development.
You have to understand the business.
You have to understand mathematics. Sometimes it's also business, because we have people who build business processes and work with different BI instruments, and it's not about and they also code. So it's not just that's the really.
But we used to put teams together with one Norwegian that understand the Norwegian business or Norwegian cultures, and then maybe 4 developers and project managers, scrum masters, and UX designers from Ukraine, and see that works very, very good. But we think it's a very good thing to have like a mixed team with the local nationality also represented.
I also think so. But what I was saying about education, that we, our goal is to prepare more of the middle developers quickly and in a big amount, for the big amount. So what we're trying to come up with is a concept that if you want to be a developer, you don't need like learn for 4 years or 5 years. Like in Ukraine, like if you want to take higher education, it's like 5 years, master's degree, 5 years. And we now transforming the programs. So and working with institutions. So in order to prepare for 3 years to prepare good middle level developer.
Yeah.
And this way we want to increase them like
Right.
number of them available for hire.
It's not only about master degree.
It's about real skills.
Yeah, and real skills and bachelors and lower a little bit. Yeah.
Because
And
it's in Ukraine it's missing. This part is missing.
Right.
Because we just discussed that there are good senior people, really some of them really brilliant. But if you want to do a lot of work, you need also a lot of middle level. And the middle level was still like if you want to be a middle level developer, you still have to do this for 5 years. So we work with the Ministry of Education to change it and give them kind of like similar diploma, but for the less amount
More
of time.
on bachelor degree instead of
Yeah,
master.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably smart. And I also see that you are getting new lines or professions, not only mathematics, but you're starting.
Yeah,
to
of
do
course.
like
So before,
IT,
I can give you examples.
facility.
Yeah, like today's. So on Monday, I had a meeting with one of their dean of the University of Shevchenko, of the biggest university in Kiev. So, and they said like, look, we have already implemented our IoT speciality for our students. So we prepare. So they also adjust very quickly. And the actual meeting was about how we can help them in order to start running artificial intelligence course. So our university is trying to be on the edge of some certain technologies, including blockchain, VR, AR, artificial intelligence, and 3D printing, and IoT specifically, because IoT is also Internet of Things booming. There's a lot of such requests. So in 2 or even 2-3 years, we're going to start producing people with bachelor or master degree in those areas.
Yeah, I have a friend in Sumi. He's a dean in Sumi State University, and he's taking a PhD now in artificial intelligence.
Oh, you see.
So we are asking him about how to solve parts of our projects, using him as a counselor.
It's a very good sign, and we became so open. And with creation of this ministry, we kind of feel this energy. But this energy from cities like Sumy, like Vinnytsia, smaller cities in Ukraine, but they haven't had a chance to approach government with their ideas. And now with us, they can come to us and say, look, we think that's the great and bright idea to follow, and we listen, and we're trying to help them. Because before they were not heard.
Cool.
And that's the partial answer to your question, where are we going to get those people? Because now those are small steps, but still I think we need quick wins too. And of course we're doing something like strategically in like 10 years and 5 years. But now we're trying to utilize everything we can in order to.
Yeah, and what's for sure is that the market is not going to be less. It's going to grow because the need for more coding is enormous.
I know there are like million of hours of demand on coding. Like if you take all this freelance exchanges, there's so many requests on coding. So someone calculated and said like there are, let's say, 5 million hours of code required to like fulfill all the requests. So it's
one problem that I think we should also address for Ukraine is the language English, because not all people in Ukraine is talking English.
Oh yeah, that's
and are you thinking about that? That it's important to get more
Yeah,
English people.
and you know what? I haven't thought about it until I got to Mexico last year.
Mm.
So I got to Mexico, and it was a business trip, and I figured out that Mexico just went ahead so much further, and the language skills of their IT professionals are much better than ours. I was thinking that Ukraine is not bad in this, but if like relatively speaking, now I feel it's really bad. The question what to do with that, right? So I'm not sure that we can really like turn this around the next day, because I'm pretty sure that in every Ukrainian school people learn English. Even my son, he has English from the first grade.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but it's probably otherwise for younger people and for
yeah,
older
but
people also.
but another thing that I was just about to say is that every company has own courses.
Yeah.
IT company has IT courses. I don't know what we can do, what we can really like breakthrough project to make people speak English, unless we wait till because people have to realize the importance of speaking English and the level have to be
I have
good.
an idea.
I
Because it's impossible to find English on TV stations in Ukraine. When you go to a Ukrainian hotel, it's all Russian or Ukrainian. so and if you're going to a movie, it's very seldom that the speech is in English, the original.
But again, I totally agree. But again, like with the services like Netflix, I think it's going better. Because I know, like, a lot of my friends, they started watching, because there's often some no Russian translation. So what they do, they start to watch this TV series without a native language in English, but with subtitles.
Yeah, that's smart.
So that's how it works. That's how it helps. But I don't think if we give them more, like young people, give them more English content on the television, because young people don't watch TV actually.
No, they're streaming.
Yeah. So they watch streaming. So I was like, all right, if Netflix not gonna translate their shows, it's gonna be good for Ukraine.
Yeah.
Because they really start to pick it up. And subtitles, at least with subtitles.
But you could make a rule saying like 30% of everything that's on cinema should not be translated.
Oh, you know what? We have troubles with this specific issue about translation a couple of years ago. So there was a huge fight about that because they were Russian. The movies were all Russians. And our government decided at least, make a further step, at least make it Ukrainian.
Yeah.
And it was a huge fight. And now all the movies Ukrainians. And maybe next step would be
small portion of
some
English,
portion, like if you want to consume this in English. But I know those are those are private initiatives of some movie chain, cinema chains. They make sometimes, like if you want to see in a region, you can, but that's not prime time. Like 11 p.m. you can go and see movie with their in origin. But
they still have to fill up the cinema,
Yeah.
right? So they have to have the Ukraine.
But another thing that because you say this is not switched over a day or a short period, but I also see that in our project, when we are running agile project, where we involving our customers into the agile team, then everyone in the team has to talk
English,
English a lot.
Yeah, that's
and
what
then
I'm saying.
they start learning. You feel a difference after a couple of weeks, and that's cool.
Yeah, this was what I was telling, that looking on the private companies, I know that they do a lot of efforts to give their employees ability to learn English. But from a personal experience, since I mentioned before that I had a business before I went to government, and those two companies, actually 3 companies that I was involved in, we were employing like almost 500 people. And of course we were running English courses, and you know what, from personal experience again, there was and we, of course it was free for all the employees. Just go. It was a native language speaker, teacher who went from America or from England. So it was high level courses, but people were missing them even for free. So we changed the model. We gave them like incentive, like if you do not pass certain exam, you can be exiled from the group, because the issue is that they were not coming. So like if it was, let's say we were doing courses during the lunchtime or after like 6 p.m. and the group was like 15 people and then 5 people only coming. So this is why I'm saying it's hard. I don't know what kind of incentive they want more, because if you give them English in school, then you give them English in university, then you give them ability to learn for free at work, and people don't use it, what else would you do? Like,
no, but I think it's from a personal experience, because I work now in a global IT company where we have English as a company, a corporate language, and I think that before that in my head I think in Norwegian, and I have to translate it to English and then speak English. And as you said, a couple of weeks you see the difference, because then you actually start to think in English.
Yeah, of course.
Right. And when you actually get there, you have some potential on kind of
Totally
educate the English side of your language, and I think that's.
Well, I know. I think Russian most of the time, but when I used to live in America, like after 1 year of instant living in going to classes where everyone speaks English, and it's not about just speaking, because and it's relatively harder when it's at work, because at work you know your domain, right? And you know people, and usually you can pick it up because you know the context of the conversation. But in university, you just come to a new class and they talk something that you didn't know before completely, like, and you have to know, and you have to pick it up like 95%, because otherwise you will be left out, and then you're not going to pass exam. So I started to pay a lot of attention, and at some point I realized I started thinking English. Before I actually like my native language is Russian, but so I think Russian most of the time. But after like 1 year, like, all right, I think English, and I'm not saying in my head anymore. I'm just getting in this straight line, and it was like so exciting for me. I was like really excited, but like, finally I reached this point. This is so amazing.
I want to talk a little bit about the topic, and just to compare, to understand from another angle that I think that you have in Ukraine. We say that in Norway we have, in the public sector, the biggest assets in the public sector is trust.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How is it in Ukraine? I mean, trust, is that an issue, or is it other assets that you are working out from?
Look, trust is to the public authorities. Trust is a big issue in Ukraine. It's really a huge problem, because even right now, everything I do, if of course we use social networks. If I put something on social networks, like this is what we done, I usually get so much criticism, even from people I know. Like they don't really trust.
By default, they don't trust you.
Yeah, by default they don't trust. We have ratings. I know some of their social metrics campaign were run for entire Ukraine, for different authorities like police. What kind of level of trust has a police and militaries and government and president? So I would say the court and parliament have a lowest rating on the people trust. So our parliament is just has biggest issue with trust, and our court, because court is corrupted, and the parliament is I don't know, people expect from them more, and they usually promise, and this is about pure politics, and they usually give promises they can fulfill. So it's not because of this current parliament. It's not an issue in current. It's issue in which comes from decades before.
The history.
Yeah, the history, and the highest trust now military has, because it's kind of like protecting us from Russian aggression. So people started to trust military, which was actually worse like parliament before, because before this war conflict started in 2014, military was like something that no one bothered about. But now it's a lot of trust. Government, I would say in the middle, like again, but it's around like 50%. So it's a lot of like half of the people doesn't trust.
But
no matter what
is
you
it a
do.
positive trend?
Yeah, that's a positive
Because it's
trend. Yeah.
on the agenda for.
Yeah. Well, this is definitely an agenda for police, because police, like it, when you're in government, you do things like maybe not favorable to everyone, because you have to balance between like how you collect and operate with taxes, and how people react to that, because they don't trust, because they give money and then nothing happens. But for police, they give service, and so police is really paying attention for that, and I know they're doing good.
Yeah.
So police is doing good.
Yeah, and in the police, you did big changes.
Yeah,
You,
yeah, a lot
like
of
fired all the police in
Yeah,
the
yeah, like
traffic
80%.
corps.
80% of policemen were changed.
Yeah.
All right.
80%.
Because of corruption or because of what?
Corruption and attitude.
Attitude. Okay.
Yeah. So right now, attitude is more little or much better.
But
Now people come to policemen on the street and ask them questions and ask for help. Before it's like you don't want to bother deal with them, because if
Look
you deal
down
with
and,
them, just go along and just
got
don't
the
touch
fine.
them. Don't ask them anything.
No.
Like now they kind of start to feel that police can actually be helpful. In terms of government, there's a huge increase after election, because people started they elected Zelensky because they believed in him, and of course trust was at the highest point, and I don't know, for the last 10 years definitely. Now it's the dynamics is, I don't know, I wouldn't say dropped, but it's not increasing. And when they elected new government, which I'm part of, the expectation and hopes was also high, because the people saw that people that went to government became ministers. They are not with a bad history. They're not someone's puppets.
No.
And there was like, the government actually is good. So the general perception, so trust was there. But still, look, there are many people in Ukraine. It's not like in Norway. There are so many people in Ukraine that were somehow taking government money and not in all this in a good case, but they were depending on government. So now they complain because they cut off of their incomes, and this also affects trust, and so a lot of issues. But I'm telling you, definitely the issue is something that we work on, and you know, we're trying hard. We're trying to be open, first of all. Transparent. Right? That's our priority. Like we have from our minister, even from prime minister, people, you can do like anything if you didn't agree with associations, for example, or groups of who your policy will affect. So we need to deal with people first, and then apply our regulation. So this is how we deal with things, because we consider trust is very, very important, because this is where we build trust. Because before, government was doing something, not asking anyone, and then like, this is a policy. You need to pay 10% more. Why? And who? And what's going to be like in exchange? No, just this is the policy. Get used to it.
So
get over it. And now we first approach people. We say like, look, and specifically about IT industry, the same way. When I came up with certain initiatives, first of all, I didn't go to parliament with this as a law. I came with a concept to IT companies. I said, look, this is what I want to do. What do you think about it? And they like, all right, we think this is inappropriate, or this is have to be changed, or we disagree. So this is a dialogue, and through dialogue we're trying to build trust.
And seeing is kind of believing, so
Yeah.
you have to do it over time. But how is it? I mean, as you said, if you post something on social media, you automatically get criticism. I mean, how is it to work from that kind of angle when you see that by default people don't trust you?
Well, first of all, you just get used to it. You kind of expect this from before you did this, and then you work with this, because some of those criticism is irrelevant and it's just a passive aggressive, if you know what I mean. Like just because people just complain. There's no real advice or real assessment of the policy that we offer. It's just like go to hell. Like
just because you are.
Yeah, because you're poor guy.
But I don't think this is a Ukrainian thing. I think it's a human thing.
Yeah. So
all humans are complaining.
Yeah, like if they complain in a like go to hell style, we just ignore them. But if they give us, I don't know, something that is really relevant and it's it makes sense, then we trying to, I don't know how to say that. We're trying to include those recommendations and see how it works.
Well, anything that you want to add, Eskisa, or are we?
No, I think we have learned
Are we going
a
in
lot.
for landing?
Yeah. So, спасибо большое for using time on us.
Thank you for coming, and really nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
We can drop by in Kiev next time for a
With
new
pleasure.
interview.
Takk for at du hørte på Digitaliseringspodden, levert av Computerworld og Already On. Vil du lære mer om digitalisering, eller planlegger digitalisering i din bedrift? Last ned digitaliseringsguiden fra alreadyon.com/digitalisering. I løpet av 15 minutter kan du sette deg inn i de viktigste uttrykkene innen digitalisering, og ta de første skrittene i din digitalisering.